Yeah, we back. Now, sometime last week, I dropped a video entitled Democratic Coups versus Military Coups, and I was speaking about the elections in Gabon. And now today's video, we're going to talk about the difference between a palace coup and a real revolutionary coup. As you know, yesterday, I dropped a video talking about the latest coup d'etat that happened in Gabon, which allegedly overthrew the Bongo family that has held power in government for the past 56 years. And now, as new developments come out, we have more information on the military general that is now the alleged transitional leader of Gabon, Mr. Brice Oligui Nguema. And as you can see by the tweet I got up on the screen, he put this out yesterday. I would like to reassure national and international opinion that Gabon is honoring all of its commitments, both nationally and internationally. I also pledge to restore democracy through future elections. Now, before we get into Mr. Brice Oligui Nguema, let's talk about what is a palace coup that I mentioned in the beginning of the video, right? Because all coups are not the same, right? You got the democratic coups, the rigged elections. You got the military coups. And then within the military coups, you have palace coups. You have actual revolutionary coups. And you got to understand which one you are dealing with. Now, in today's video, we're going to be talking about palace coups. And I'm going to be giving examples, historical examples of palace coups that have occurred throughout history. Now, first things first, what exactly is a palace coup? A palace coup is an overthrow of a government, typically between different factions among the ruling class. It can be carried out for a variety of reasons, including political power struggles, disputes over political direction, disagreements between the ruling class, etc., etc. Now, the first example of a palace coup is the coup d'etat carried out by Napoleon Bonaparte in 1799. The coup d'etat of 1799 brought Napoleon Bonaparte to power as the first consul of France. In the view of most historians, it ended the French Revolution and led to a coronation of Napoleon as emperor. The bloodless coup d'etat overthrew the Directory, replacing it with the French consulate. This occurred on the 9th of November, 1799. In 1799, France was in a state of political chaos with a weak and ineffective government, full of economic problems and military challenges. On the 9th of November 1799, Napoleon and his brothers and his supporters carried out a coup d'etat to overthrow the existing government known as the Directory. The coup d'etat involved the use of military force, but it also had significant political maneuvering behind the scenes. Napoleon presented himself as a stabilizing figure who would bring order and peace and prosperity to France. The coup resulted in the dissolution of the Directory and the establishment of a new government called the Consulate, with Napoleon known as the first consul. Now, yes, brothers, yes indeed. The same Western boys talking to us about democracy, this is what their forefathers was doing. This is what their granddaddies was doing. This is what their granddaddies was doing, but now their grandsons is preaching to us about democracy. Get out of here, man. Let's continue. Another example of a palace coup is the 2017 overthrow of Robert Mugabe. And in fact, Robert Mugabe was overthrown by his best friend of damn near 50 years. Now, let's continue. Let's get into it. The uprising took place amid tensions in the ruling party between former Vice President Emerson Mnangagwa and First Lady Grace Mugabe over who would succeed the 93-year-old President Mugabe. Another example of a palace coup is the assassination of Shaka Zulu. Let's get into it. Shaka was killed by 3 assassins sometime in 1828. September is the most frequently cited date, when almost all Zulu manpower had been sent on yet another mass sweep in the north. This left the royal crowd critically lacking in security. It was all the conspirators needed, they being Shaka's half-brothers, Dingane and Mblangana, and an Induna called Mbopa. A diversion was created by Mbopa, and Dingane and Mblangana struck the fatal blows. Shaka's corpse was dumped by his assassins in an empty grain pit, which was then filled with stones and mud. Dingane was a Zulu prince who became king of the Zulu kingdom in 1828 after assassinating his half-brother Shaka Zulu. And shout out to Dingane, you know what I'm saying? When Dingane, he's famous for, when he rode down on them Voortrekkers. He ran down, the Zulu army ran down on them Voortrekkers, left them stanking, Anyways, let me stop. Let's continue. The next example of a palace coup is the military overthrow of King Henry Christophe from the Kingdom of Haiti in 1820. And I actually dropped a video on it sometime last month. Take a look up on the screen. Why did the Haitian military overthrow King Henry Christophe? Excellent video, classic video. I went in depth on that situation. But yeah, man, we already know how that situation went down. But for those of y'all who don't know, King Henry Christophe started his military career around the age of 12 years old, 13 years old, when he was enlisted in the French colonial army as a drummer boy, and he served under various commanders and actually served in the American Revolution as a teenager. By the time he reached his early 20s, he enlisted in the army of Toussaint Louverture. By the time he reached his early 30s, Toussaint Louverture appointed him as the general-in-chief of the capital of the colony. Keep in mind, the French colony of Saint-Domingue was the wealthiest colony in the world, and the capital of the colony was the #1 destination spot in the Western Hemisphere during that time. That was equivalent to New York City during that time, because that was the capital city of the wealthiest colony in the world, and Christophe was appointed by Toussaint Louverture as general-in-chief in his early 30s. So you already know, man, Christophe, big shit popping, little shit stopping, young, rich, powerful young brother. Around the year 1802, 1803, Toussaint Louverture gets captured and assassinated. Around the year 1806, Dessalines gets assassinated. Christophe retreats back to his stronghold in the north, in the capital city, and he establishes his own sovereign government in the north side of the country, where he was already general-in-chief since the year 1802. That's where he established the seat of his government. Fast forward to the year 1820. Christophe is now approaching his mid-50s. He already had a stroke in the year 1820. In the summer of 1820, he had a stroke, so he was paralyzed. He was suffering from mental illness. I suspect schizophrenia, maybe PTSD from the battlefield, maybe PTSD from growing up in slavery. Bottom line, Christophe, towards the end of his life, he was paralyzed, suffering from mental illness, and among many other factors that I discussed in the video mentioned previously. Go check that video out. It's almost 30 minutes. I go in depth. And the military descended upon his palace, right? The military descended upon the royal palace, and Christophe shot himself in the goddamn chest because he refused to be arrested by the military. He was like, y'all not gonna take me, fuck y'all, I'm shooting my goddamn self. And Christophe shot himself, and his family went into exile. Now let's continue. Let's talk about who is this leader in Gabon, right? This General Brice Oligui Nguema. Who is this guy? You know, let's take a look up on the screen, man. Just 5 years ago, he barely existed in Gabon's public consciousness, having spent 10 years outside the country after being dismissed from the inner circle of the Bongo family, who until Wednesday had ruled Gabon for almost 56 years. On General Nguema's return, he quietly rose to the army's highest position. Here, he dedicated his days to maintaining President Ali Bongo's regime. Now you see why I laid the groundwork, why I talked about the different palace coups, and you know, listen, man, I smell funny business. You know, I'll be honest with you. I smell funny business. Now let's continue. Gabon's new strongman was born in Gabon's province of Oligui. The area is a stronghold of the Bongo family, and some even say that General Nguema is Ali Bongo's cousin. General Nguema took after his father and pursued a career in the military. At a very young age, he joined Gabon's powerful Republican Guard unit, having first trained in Morocco. The ambitious young officer quietly attracted the attention of the military top brass and became an assistant to then President Omar Bongo, who was Ali Bongo's father. It is said that General Nguema was extremely close to Omar Bongo. He served the autocrat until his death in 2009. The industrious military man reappeared on Gabon's political scene in 2018 when he replaced the president's stepbrother as the Republican Guard's intelligence chief. After just 6 months on their job, General Nguema was promoted to head of the Republican Guard. He initiated reforms to make the unit more effective in its fundamental mission, maintaining the regime. Now let's continue. This is where it gets interesting. Nguema was named in a 2020 investigation by the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project, a global network of investigative journalists, which alleged that some members of the Bongo family and their inner circle purchased expensive property in the United States with stashes of cash. The Bongo family has ruled the oil-rich Gabon for half a century. None of the accused replied to requests for comment. Now, I'll be honest, man. I'll be honest. My antennas go up whenever I hear somebody talking about they got a bunch of property, they got a bunch of financial interests in Western nations. Listen, my antennas go up. My antennas go up for that. My antennas don't go up if, you know, people talk about, okay, somebody is trained by the United States, somebody is trained by the United States, or somebody is educated in the United States. I don't view that as being a sellout, because I was educated in the United States, and just because I was educated in the United States, that doesn't mean that I have the mind of a Western man. That doesn't mean that I have the consciousness of a Western man. That does not mean that I have the mentality of somebody who wants to uphold Western interests just because I got my education on the East Coast of the United States. I don't really buy into that. And also, when it comes to military training, I don't buy into that either, because technically you could say Toussaint Louverture, Henry Christophe, they were French trained military officers, and those are some of the most legendary black men to ever live. But when it comes to somebody having financial interests overseas, having property overseas, having businesses overseas, tied to Western nations, Western banks, in my opinion, you cannot be trusted. You cannot be trusted, bro. And that goes for everybody, even myself. If I was to ever get into politics, you can't even trust me, because I have financial interests in the United States. I have my money in U.S. banks. You can't trust me if I was going into politics. That's why I would never go into politics. I would operate behind the scenes if I ever wanted to get into politics. I would fund campaigns. That's what I would do. But I would never step out in front and be a political leader, because in my opinion, you cannot be trusted if a foreign power has leverage over you in the form of property or money up in their banks. You cannot be trusted, because as soon as they say they're going to freeze your account, as soon as they say they're going to freeze your property, the majority of people are going to fold. The majority of people do not have what it takes. I remember back in like 2007, I forget the president of Haiti during that time. I think it was Rene Preval. And I believe the State Department had given him an ultimatum saying, you better do this, or we're going to cancel your visa. We're going to that big mansion you got up in Miami. We're going to seize the property. Your kid's going down to university. We're going to kick him out of school. Guess what? His wife told him, you better do what the white man's saying. His wife told him, you better do what the white man said, because we got to maintain our lifestyle. We got to maintain our lifestyle. I like going to Miami, you know what I mean, going on South Beach and shit like that. So yeah, a lot of people are going to fold. They're not going to be able to stand tall. That's why, in my opinion, it's a red flag when somebody got money overseas stashed away, got property overseas stashed away, got their family living outside the country. You a leader in the country, but your own family can't even live inside the country. That shows to me that you have no plans to ever build the country, because you won't even build it for your family. You send your family overseas, so you have no plans to ever really build it to sustain your own family. You sent your family overseas. When you get sick, you go overseas. When you on a vacation, you go overseas. Everything is overseas. That's at least one thing I respect about the military leaders in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. They don't have that leverage hanging over their head. They don't got that dark cloud hanging over their head to where when they decided to sanction them and blacklist them, it didn't really have much of an effect, because they don't got money stashed away up in a goddamn French bank. They don't got property somewhere up in Washington, D.C. They don't got a goddamn condo up in L.A. You know what I mean? So when you don't got that leverage hanging over your head, you have more flexibility as a leader. You can take more chances as a leader. You don't have someone hanging you off a short leash as a leader. But anyways, man, let's jump back into these articles. Take a look up on the screen. Barely 8 months ago, Gabon's national news agency reported that General Nguema publicly reaffirmed his loyalty to Ali Bongo's presidency, which had stretched for 14 years. But on Saturday, just after Ali Bongo was announced as the winner of a disputed presidential election, the military announced it was annulling the results and taking over. With the president under house arrest, General Brice Nguema was named Gabon's transitional leader. As a man who has been accused of corruption and has spent most of his career in the Bongo's inner circle, he may not turn out to be the fresh start that the Gabonese people hope he will be. Yeah, man, I always say I don't like to jump to conclusions. I like to sit back and observe, but it's smelling funny, man. It's smelling funny. Funny business, man. Funny business, man. You know, it ain't looking nice, man. It ain't looking nice, especially when I seen you put out this tweet. Take a look up on the screen. When I seen him say, I would like to reassure national and international opinion that Gabon is honoring all of its commitments, both nationally and internationally. I also pledge to restore democracy through future elections. When I seen that tweet, that basically let me know that this guy represents the status quo, right? That it represents the status quo. I don't expect him to ever tell the French ambassador to go home. I don't ever expect him to tell the French military to go home. He did not suspend the French media like other military leaders do. You know, it's not really looking like a anti-French coup d'etat. You know, it's not looking like that. It's looking like some internal division inside the family. It's looking like Ali Bongo is not fit to maintain a family dynasty, so somebody else is taking the head of the family dynasty. That's what it looks like to me. Now, going back to the difference between a palace coup and a revolutionary coup, this is definitely a palace coup, at least on the surface, right? Because a palace coup is nothing more than an internal power struggle among the ruling elite class of a nation, right? It typically involves a change in leadership from one faction within the existing power structure, replacing another faction within the same power structure. The change is often orchestrated by those who are already in positions of authority and influence. And a palace coup focuses on changing the top leadership while keeping the existing system largely intact. Meanwhile, a revolutionary coup, it has to do with completely overhauling an entire system and replacing it with a new regime. And all of the former regime and all its old allies, it's done for. All the policies from the old regime, it's done for, right? Like when the goddamn military leaders in Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso talking about, listen, all the French agreements, cancel them shit. That's a revolutionary transition. But when somebody comes to power and says that we are maintaining all of our national and international obligations, listen, you already know what time it is, man. I never like to jump to conclusions, but you already know what time it is. Now, what could be his motivations? I don't really know. Maybe the Western powers don't see Ali Bongo as somebody who's fit to lead. Maybe those in the inner elite circles of Gabon, maybe they don't see Ali Bongo as somebody who could fulfill the role as a figurehead for the family dynasty. For example, take a look up on the screen. My man can barely walk. You know what I'm saying? My man could barely keep himself up. How the hell can he be a president when he can't even walk across the goddamn room? And keep in mind, he had a stroke back in 2018. So who knows if he's dealing with any type of mental repercussions from that? You know what I mean? We don't even know. But anyways, take a look up on the screen. Besides military and diplomatic duties, Nguema was seen as entrepreneurial and also believed to be a millionaire in Gabonese circles. I've heard that he was a billionaire. According to a 2020 investigation by the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting, the Bango's family assets in the United States, Nguema invested in real estate, paying in cash. He had bought 3 properties in middle and working class neighborhoods in Maryland suburbs of Hyattsville and Silver Spring, just outside the capital, in 2015 and 2018. The homes were purchased with over $1 million in cash. $1 million in cash. Let's continue. Now, this was when I was like, man, funny business. Take a look up on the screen. This was a Facebook post by Ali Bongo's daughter, Malika Bongo. She said, "Congratulations on the new president of the transition, His Excellency Brice Oligui Nguema." That's her family member, right? So if he's the cousin of Ali Bongo and she's the daughter of Ali Bongo, you know, that's one of her relatives right there. Which means to me that the Bongo family dynasty is still in power. So this alleged coup d'etat could be a way to save face for the election because everybody can see that the elections were fraudulent. So now in an indirect way through the military, the Bongo family is still maintaining its grip on power and telling Ali Bongo step to the side because you could barely walk. You probably gonna shit on yourself on live TV. Just go rest up, bro. Go retire somewhere. Go retire somewhere and rest up. That's what it's looking like to me. It's looking like the family dynasty is changing figureheads. That's what it looks like to me. Because as it stands right now, this guy right here, General Brice Nguema, he's not the guy. You're not the guy, big bro. You're not the guy. Just take a look at his Wikipedia page, for crying out loud. Brigadier General Brice Nguema is a Gabonese military officer serving as transitional president of Gabon. He is believed to have played a key part in the 2023 Gabon coup d'etat, overthrowing his cousin Ali Bongo. He is also known to be a multi-millionaire involved in an embezzlement affair and having links to the drug circles of the South American Ivorian cartels. Now, in the last video, I spoke about, man, so many politicians in these black nations that are involved in drug trafficking. Now, why are so many politicians, especially in black nations, why are they involved in drug trafficking? Well, first things first, I'll say this. The men that are at the top of the drug game, those men have political connects, right? Like I told you, the former president of Haiti, Michel Martelly, his brother-in-law, what's his name? Charles Saint-Remy, aka Kiko Saint-Remy, yeah, one of the biggest drug dealers in the Western Hemisphere. And his brother-in-law was Michel Martelly, right? So imagine you the plug, right? Imagine you a big-time drug dealer and your brother-in-law is the goddamn president. You got the ports on lock. You could get a big-ass shipment. You getting $100 million shipments in. Bro, when you have political connects, those are the men that are at the top of the drug game, right? So that is very common. It's very common, man. And like I told you, when you're a government that is friendly to Western interests, they'll let you do whatever you want. You could sell drugs. You could let drugs pass through your country, pass through your ports. They will never prosecute you or arrest you unless you step out of bounds. Unless you do not want to serve their interests, then they will bring up your file. But as long as you play ball, as long as you're respectful, as long as you do what you're told, they'll let you do whatever you want. Sell all the drugs you want. Make all the money you want. Buy all the property you want. Launder all the money you want. That's the reality, man. That's the reality. So, I don't like to jump to conclusions, but it's looking like he's not the guy, man. It's looking like he's not the guy. I don't expect him to kick out the French ambassador. I don't expect him to suspend the operations of French oil companies in Gabon. I don't expect him to shut down the French military base. I don't expect him to cut diplomatic ties with France the same way that Mali and Niger and Burkina Faso did. I don't expect it, bro. I don't expect it. It seems that it's another Western-backed regime that came to remove Ali Bongo from power because Ali Bongo is not fit to govern in his current state of health. And yeah, that's what it's looking like, bro. That's what it's looking like. I'm not saying that maybe a revolutionary faction within the army, could get this guy out of power too, but I don't know. It's not really looking like it, man. Who knows? But I'll be watching the developments, man. I'll be watching the developments. Anyways, it's your boy Nevercard. That's Salim back in the building. Yes, indeed. Cash App up on the screen, and I'm gone. Peace.
Reincarnated, I'm back in original fashion. I
left on a horse and came back in that ass, and I left with abundance and came back to famine. We used to be pyramids, now we be rapping. Look how the mighty have fallen. Used to be running, now we be walking. When you be cooning, that's when they applauded. Selling your soul, your sons and your daughter. Gotta come up in this shit, they stuck in the mix. Really, my heart it be breaking. That's why I'm stacking that paper and handle my business. Pass it down in generation. Talking about money and power and building a nation. That's a deadly combination. Never be watching the TV, they pushing agendas, falsifying information. Know they got malice intentions. Step in the room and I'm feeling the tension. Enemy watching me blocking my vision. Pay for the check cause I need my redemption. Building my kingdom, I need it protected. Ready for war like a young Money Congo. Never decided the team is the motto. Up in the crib and I'm whipping up waffles. Up in the crib and I'm smoking gelato. I'm chilling, I'm taking my pain and make it ambition. I'm blessed by the gods, but I ain't religious. I came for the power, they came for the bitch. They making no hourly wage, I got business. This shit is an art and they could never be taught. Selling my soul, I can never be bought. Play with my money, I see you in court. Run to the check and I do it for sport. Babylon falling, I go to the source. Packing my luggage and go overseas. Shorty be with me and she so at least. Shorty be chocolate, I'm calling her Hershey. Secret intelligence probably gon' murk me. Don't fuck with brands cause nigga I'm Haitian. Say the wrong shit and you're smacking their faces.